Okay, welcome back to Cursive. Today we are going to tackle the loop letters. We're going to learn how to write them. These are letters that, as you can tell, start with a loop stroke. So a couple things to remember. Again, we have our board at an angle that follows the natural angle of our arm as we write. Also, I want to point out that while I'm writing, you're not going to see me manipulate my wrist and curve it like this. You're going to see me keep my wrist pretty straight with a little bit of movement. Most of it is at the hinge of my elbow and in my actual finger joints in my hand. So that's important, and I'll show you an example of that in just a minute. Okay, so the first one we're going to learn is the letter L, or the phonogram L. It's important that every single time we practice these, we say the strokes, and when we finish, we say the sound of the phonogram. So here's how we write the first one. Starting at the baseline, loop up to the top line, down to the baseline, L. Loop, down, L. One more. Loop, down, L. Great. What you notice that I'm not doing, as an example, is you don't see me saying loop and then breaking my wrist and trying to push it down like that. We don't want this right here to happen. That's when we lose control and our handwriting becomes inconsistent. So again, loop, down, L, loop, down, L, loop, down, L. Good. And as you remember, we can connect these down here to letters. Also, we can connect in front of them. These are the connectors. Great. So that was pretty easy. Okay, the next one is the B, letter B, or the phonogram B. All right, so starts the same way. You loop up to the top line, down to the baseline, swing up to the midline, dip connector at the midline. So I made mine a little too fat right there because I caught something and it slid my marker. That's okay. So it is loop, down, swing, dip. Loop, down, swing, dip. B. All right, let's try that again. Okay, starting at the baseline. Loop to the top, down to the baseline. Swing, dip, B. Now, I see some kids when they're learning this, because we did plenty of swing strokes, and swings usually look pretty wide like this. I see a lot of kids do this. Loop, down, swing, B. Loop, down, swing, B. That's okay, but what I would say is start working on closing this in a little closer. Okay, start working on making this swing in a little closer. All right. Let's do a few more of those. Loop, down, swing, dip. Ooh, see, look, I didn't even hit the baseline. Loop, down, swing, dip. Loop, down, swing, dip. Oh my goodness, I didn't say the sounds. So I'm getting distracted because my hand is getting caught on this board, and that does not make for a good, smooth handwriting experience. Okay, let's try 3 more and then we're done. Loop, down, swing, dip, B. Loop, down, swing, dip, B. Loop, down, swing, dip, B. Excellent. Okay, the next one is the letter F, or the phonogram. So this one, again, you start at the baseline, you loop up to the top line, drop halfway down below the baseline, hook up to the baseline, touch it, and glide. You can't even see the whole thing. All right. So you loop up to the top line, drop halfway down below the baseline, hook up to the baseline, touch it, and glide. So it sounds like this. Loop, drop, hook, glide. Loop, drop, hook, glide. Excellent. All right, so I do want to point out that it is happening on the baseline where the hook touches the baseline. and glides from there. So, and you want to make sure it hooks the front direction, not behind it. One last one. Loop, drop, hook, glide. There we go. Great. The next one is the letter E, or the phonogram E. That has two sounds, so we're going to make sure we say both of them. This is pretty easy. We're going to do a small loop up to the midline, then down to the baseline. Starting on the baseline, small loop to the midline, down to the baseline. E. Small loop, down, E. Small loop, down, E. You notice how it's touching the midline and it's going down to the baseline. There's a little bit of space here. That's okay. Not everything's perfect, right? We just want to be pretty consistent. Small loop, down, E. Small loop, down, E. We want to avoid doing things like this. It's not the same. It doesn't look as consistent. All right. Small loop, down, E. Very good. Next, the letter H, or the phonogram. So this one's fun. This has a little bump, which is great introduction to our last type of letters, which will be bump letters. So we'll learn those later. So we start at the baseline, of course. We loop up to the top line, straight to the baseline. Bump up to the midline, down to the baseline. Loop up to the top line, straight to the baseline, bump to the midline, down to the baseline. So they don't look the same. Again, that's okay. It comes with practice. All right. So loop, straight, bump, down. Loop, straight, bump, down. All right. So when it's saying straight, you notice that it's coming straight down. It's not coming at an angle. It's not coming over here, right? Because then you'd have a wonky tip to the wrong direction. So let's practice that again. Loop, straight, bump, down. Excellent. Okay, our last one is the letter K, or tall. So here, we start at the baseline. We loop to the top line, straight to the baseline, just like the last one. We slide it to the midline, circle around and touch halfway between the midline and baseline, kick out to the baseline. All right, let's try that again. We loop up to the top line, straight to the baseline. Slide up to the midline, circle around, touch halfway between the midline and the baseline, and kick out to the baseline. Okay, let's try that again with just the strokes. Loop, straight, up, circle, kick. Loop, straight, up, circle, kick. Loop, straight, up, circle, kick. That is it for all of the loop letters. Great job.